What's good everyone YouTube? It's me again, back with another video. And yes, I know I disappeared for like 3 weeks, but I'm back. And I don't have a new shoe to talk about today, but over the past like 2 months with restrictions sort of like loosening up, I've managed to get outside and dance a little more.
Judges, 3, 2, 1,
And when I started going back outside, I decided that it might be time to try a new shoe and see how it would work in a dance situation. And I never shot a full review of this shoe, but I thought, you know, it's been 2 months, I've really put this shoe through the ringer, so maybe I should just do this update video to show you what has happened to the shoe, the pros and cons, and my overall thoughts. And the shoe we're talking about today is the Nike React, or Nike Air Force 1 React. So yeah. Let's show you what's going on with them. And here is the shoe as it is right now, and as you can probably see, it is quite dirty. I'm trying my best not to really touch the bottoms. It's probably my fault for going for like a triple white or like the white colorway when I was going to use it for something like dancing. But as you can see, we've got quite a lot of like scuffs and dirt marks on the upper itself. Where the mesh is, it's soaked up more of the dirt. On the inside of the shoe, on both my shoes, the Nike check is sort of like scraped off, and that's because it's screen printed, and because of the fact that I like to W-sit all the time when I dance, this always makes contact with the ground and it really doesn't wear that nicely. On the right shoe actually, there is some like cracking on the leather, which I'll probably mention in the cons. And on the sock liner of this left shoe, actually, we've already got some rippage going on. And then if we move to the outsole, before on the heel and the toe, instead of the usual star pattern, they actually had like the React kind of wave pattern. But this is completely worn down on both these sections. And then, yeah, just some general wear on the outsole as well. So that's how the shoe stands right now. It's fairly beat, pretty worn, and I've got some things to say about it. So without further ado, we'll get into my pros of this shoe, which is really my first pro of this shoe, and probably the biggest pro and maybe the only reason to really buy this shoe, is the cushioning technology itself. So as you probably know, this being the React Air Force 1, instead of the usual hard, I guess EVA foam with the air sole units and the cup sole around it, instead we've got a drop-in React midsole, almost like insole thing. And this React foam, as typical to most React shoes, is really soft. And because it's molded so that it doesn't really fill out the shoe completely, it has a lot of room to compress, which is really felt underfoot. And, you know, cheeky for them to still call it an Air Force 1, they've actually still kept an air unit in the heel, but there are no pillars in the air unit, so it's just a literal pocket of air that compresses really nicely underfoot. So compared to a regular Air Force 1, this actually feels really nice underfoot. So that would be my first pro for this shoe. The cushioning technology is definitely felt on this shoe. My second pro for this shoe is the slight breathability upgrade compared to regular Air Force 1s. Now, don't get it twisted, this shoe still isn't very breathable in general terms compared to any competent runner, but because there is mesh on the side panels as well as along the tongue, the shoe breathes a little easier than regular Air Force 1s. I find regular Air Force 1s get really sweaty and hot with barely any wear, but this shoe is actually okay over extended periods of time. So that would be my second pro for this shoe, the slight breathability upgrade compared to regular Air Force 1s. My third pro for this shoe would actually just be the traction itself. I don't know what it is about Nike and their circular traction, but it just seems to stick really nicely. Never felt like I was going to slip out in any situation. It's a pretty grippy rubber, and unlike say the Jordan 1, it's not as squeaky as the Jordan 1. So that honestly helps a lot for this shoe. So overall, I would just say the traction of this shoe is pretty solid and a pro for this shoe. So those are my 3 pros. Let's get into the cons of this shoe. My first con for this shoe would actually be the leather quality. So even though the toe box and then the collar area, I'm pretty sure is real leather, It's real leather at its most basic form. It's super cheap feeling, it's very plasticky, quite stiff. It took a really long time to break in. And even though that it's broken in, it still holds creases really unpleasantly. And at least on the right shoe, there's actually cracking on the finish on the top of the leather. And on this left shoe, we've actually got some separation from like the midsole and the leather itself. But it looks like it's the finish of the leather that's completely ripped off. And I just think for the upgraded price, I know you're paying mostly for the React sole, but I felt like that they didn't really need to cheap out on the leather that much just to implement the React technology. So that would be my first comp for this shoe. The leather quality is subpar in my opinion. The second comp for this shoe is because the midsole is a separate piece from the cup sole itself. When you're doing sort of lateral movements, you can clearly feel the your foot sliding a little bit off the footbed itself. And sometimes you can feel like you're coming off the edge of the insole itself. And that's because since the rubber cup sole is not connected, you can actually sort of push out and sort of over the shoe itself. Now, where that comes into the illusions I'm talking about, if you're trying to do like ankle breaks where you're trying to look like you're on the side of your foot, you can make it look like that without actually having to do it because your foot is actually sliding around inside the shoe. But for other situations where lateral containment might be necessary, this shoe really doesn't have it, and it feels really odd having your foot kind of slide off the footbed. So that would be my second con for this shoe. Just the separate midsole to cup sole really doesn't help with lateral containment. Jeez, really squeezing out these cons, but we have to do it. My final con for this shoe is actually all the aesthetic changes they made on the Air Force 1 silhouette. So, as I've mentioned before in some other videos, I actually find the Air Force 1 to be a very classic and beautiful silhouette. And I know for like the new technology, they probably wanted to give it a different aesthetic, but pretty much every change they've made, I feel has been a step backwards. So this screen printed Nike swoosh doesn't really look all that nice, and actually material wise isn't very good because it shaves off with any scraping. I don't particularly like the added plastic portion around the cup sole, around the eye eyelets, or at least this layer where the eye holes are, or the holes, geez. They've made it sort of wavy, and apparently this is a callback to like the React Element 87s, which, you know, cool in terms of storytelling, but I just think it looks a lot worse and a little unnatural on like such a classic looking silhouette. You're kind of trying to fuse like a futuristic look with this classic look, which I just don't think looks that nice. The mesh itself, while I said it looks really good, it feels really nice in terms of breathability, I think I would have actually honestly preferred just some leather. And the laces itself, like, I know I'm getting nitpicky now, but even the laces itself has just been changed to a slightly thinner, flat style lace. And I think I would have just preferred the original flat laces of the Air Force 1 itself. Pretty much, my ideal version of this shoe would just be an Air Force 1 that looks exactly like an Air Force 1, but do this React midsole, and you know, I think it would look a lot better because of it. It's the same problem I kind of have with the Zoom Jordan 1s, where they've kind of they've put really strange colorways on the shoe instead of just making classic colorways or classic silhouettes, but just hiding the Zoom Air inside it, which I think would have been a lot better. So overall, my final con for this shoe would just be all the aesthetic changes they've made to the Air Force 1. So my overall thoughts on this shoe, if you're not too fussed about how comfortable an Air Force 1 is, I'd probably just stick with a regular Air Force 1. But if you're someone that really finds Air Force 1s uncomfortable, and you actually maybe don't mind these updated looks, this is a really good purchase in my opinion, because the comfort is really nice, and I have a feeling these will probably go on sale because they seem to be sitting around, so you know, you can probably get them cheaper, but that's just me. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section down below. And if you're into more sneaker videos, dance videos, vlogs, that sort of thing, consider subscribing to the channel. yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts, and I'll catch you guys in another video. Damn, I have not talked in front of a camera in a while. It feels weird.